the difference between a consultant and a fractional leader. There's a need for both models, but there is a very real difference in how they're delivered. A fractional leader is a part of the team for part of the time, but they are on the team. As a fractional leader, you are strategic, providing the guidance, but you're also tactical, where you can help them implement because you're a part of the team. You're not just making the recommendations, you're helping execute as well.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm excited today. We have Greg Plum. He's the Director of North America at PartnerReady. Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kelsey, thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Greg, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm a fractional executive focusing, I guess people would say it's a marketing CMO. I focus on partnerships and strategic alliances. So basically that means I work with founders, SaaS founders usually, helping them understand and discover new routes to market through places they may not have been looking historically. And it's been honestly, it's been a windy path to get here. I started out with a degree in geophysics of all things, believe it or not. Yeah, I know. I get that all the time. Degree in geophysics, and I went into banking for 10 years. And then that was big corporate, and decided big corporate wasn't for me. And then I started working with startups. And so for the past 20 years, I've been working in the tech space with startups. And the whole concept of partnerships and strategic alliances is just a much more leveraged way of going about business. And then about 2 years ago, I decided to do it on my own, as a fractional leader, and I'm part of PartnerReady, which is an ecosystem advisory firm. And that's what brought us here today.
That's fascinating. So tell me, a little bit more about PartnerReady.
So yeah, PartnerReady's been around for a few years, and it's essentially, we're all, I think the best way to describe it is it's kind of like in real estate, you have, your big real estate companies, but the agents are all independents, but they're experts, and they have their own little niche that they focus on. You've got the one realtor that might focus on historic properties, the other one on, high-rise, condominiums. So that's where we are. So we have a bench of executives that have various different types of backgrounds, coming from, some come from Salesforce, some come from IBM, the large corporate, and they just got to a point where wanted to be able to share the knowledge with multiple companies. And really, we all love all of the partner pros, we call ourselves, really love working with startups and trying to help them scale. And usually the problem with them is they don't necessarily have the budget to be able to bring an exec on full time. So this allows them to actually leverage the resource in a part-time basis, yet you still get kind of 100% of the brain.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fascinating. And, why do you think it's so important that PartnerReady is able to provide these services to the clients?
Well, I think it's a need right now. We're seeing, I don't know if this is driven, I think it's exacerbated by COVID, honestly, because we all heard the Great Resignation, right? Well, I think these people that were resigning really didn't want to not work. They just wanted to work on their own terms. They wanted to work differently. So I feel like the fractional model is, if you Google it, you're going to see there are Slack groups coming up and just different organizations. They're almost like support groups or forums for fractional leaders, because it's a model that I think its time has come. The gig economy it's been around, it's been growing, but what's happened of late, the level of role has actually elevated. So that gig economy, where it used to be more transactional entry-level roles, administrative tasks, is actually now moved from tactical to more strategic.
Interesting. And, when you're talking about these potential startups that, you're able to support, do you see any trends in different industries that tend to have more of a demand for it?
I see it just because that's where I'm looking. My hunch is that fractional leadership can really span all industries, all verticals. My focus and a lot of what we do at PartnerReady is really around SaaS. It's software as a service, simply because, the cloud has fueled that segment of business.
Mhm.
And because it's a rising tide, that's where we all came from, so that's our expertise. That's where we're comfortable. So because of that, that's where I'm seeing a lot of the growth today.
Mhm. What would you say are, some of the common challenges that businesses face when it comes to forming partnerships?
Oh my goodness. There's so many. And I've been in partnerships, full time. I've been vice president of partnerships and then strategic alliances. And then there's a term out there called channel chief, where basically you're in charge of all of the strategy around your indirect initiatives. Indirect being, I'm not going directly to the customer. I'm going to the customer through another route, whatever that route may be. The challenge I've always faced, always, and I love this model. I discovered it by accident in 2000. I guess my first tech company I was working with. My job was, I actually took a job to selling into in the communication space. And as soon as I discovered, or someone said, there's this channel of it was even called, back then it was the alternate channel. So it was almost like that off to the side. It was tangential. It wasn't really core to business. And these were independent agents, if you will, and they were looking for different tools to take to their customers. I thought, my gosh, what a beautiful concept. Instead of doing this, number one, instead of selling myself, I don't like selling, but I love relationships. I love building relationships, and partnerships absolutely is very much about the relationship and not the transaction. So when I discovered it, it just honestly, I was smitten, and I realized that was going to be the path my career would take. But the challenge that I've had time and again, getting back to your original question, has been really making sure that the leadership team understands that it is not a quick hit. It is not as, an overnight, you turn on a faucet and then all of a sudden you have a partner program and deals are coming in the door. Usually, it's about an 18-month endeavor from the time you say, we feel like we want to leverage this approach, this marketing approach. How long is it going to take for it to really start to see results? It's generally about 18 months. I mean, if you're starting from scratch. And then oftentimes we're brought into companies where they've started, but then it's stalled. And then the question is, well, why? So the key is really about finding the right partners, because not all partners, just because they want to sell your stuff, might not be the right partner for you. And that's part of what we do. It's really seeking that alignment. We help really provide clarity around that.
Interesting. So, kind of leaning into what makes a partnership successful, what would you say are some of, the key qualities or characteristics that make a partnership successful and mutually beneficial?
One word: alignment. It's 100% around alignment. So I'm going to address this. Let's say it's a SaaS founder. You have your business goals, you have your processes that you're comfortable with, that what you're building everything around. Your partner has the exact same. What we need to make sure is we're not trying to, I always use the term, jam the square peg in a round hole. I always use the term, you think I would have gotten it right this time. Square peg, round hole. You just can't do it. We need to make sure we're finding those that dovetail nicely, meaning there are some partners that are out there that have built infrastructure. They want to, quote unquote, own the customer, meaning it's on their paper, so they're billing the customer. That's more of a wholesale type relationship. So in that case, I, as a SaaS leader, I'm going to be the founder. I'm going to be billing that partner a wholesale or discounted rate. They're going to turn around, mark it up, and sell it to the customer. And they might bundle in other services, and maybe layer on professional services with that. That's one model. Another model might be a referral model where I do everything. I build a customer, I collect, at which point I take a piece of that, I have a commission, and I pay that to the partner for their efforts. And those are usually evergreen. They usually get paid for the life of that account, which is a great model. So both models work. The question is, me as a SaaS founder, where am I comfortable? Which model works for me? And oftentimes it's both. It can be both. But you just want to make sure that you're identifying the partners that actually can fit with your business model and the way you're delivering, as well as you want your product to dovetail nicely into what they're doing. if it's too tangential, they're just never going to pay attention, no matter how much money you're paying them. If it's not going to help them grow their core business, they're not going to pay attention to it. You're not going to get the mind share that's really going to make it successful.
And we've talked off camera a little bit, talking about connecting the dots and the importance of alignment, like you said. And, talking a little bit about having fractional leadership that's able to connect those dots is so key, I think, to part of that alignment and making sure that, these partnerships are successful.
It is. And, and it's not necessarily, it may well be going into your Rolodex. If we're working with a client that's in our sweet spot where we've worked before, for example, if it's, I have a background in unified communications, if it's something there, I have a Rolodex that I can actually open some doors. But that's really not what it's about. It's more about identifying those channels. That's what we help. That's really the passion. That's the fun part when you dig in with the company, the SaaS, the CRO or the sales leader, or whoever's looking to find these routes to market. When you dig in, and we have something that's called, it's a proprietary concept of value. Everybody's heard of value chain. Well, basically it's like where you fit in the whole value schema. Our value chain of the customer, our key, and the key to our success is the lens through which we're looking at our business and our customers' business. We need to be kind of not egocentric. We need to stop thinking about our products, our services, and how we can bring them to market. We need to think about the customer. What do they buy? When do they buy? How do they buy? Who influences them? What organizations do they belong to? All those things that are touching and influencing the customer, those are your routes to market. It might not be this partner that you've been working with or that you know well and they want to sell your stuff. It might be this other entity that you never even thought about. So the value of the fractional executive is to come in, or the partnership person. They may not even be fractional. Right. That's how I do it. But there are others. A good executive, a partnership executive is looking strategically, not just opening the Rolodex, but strategically what approach we should be taking with our current customers and our prospective customers.
And I think a huge part of that is collaboration and trust as well on behalf of leadership, your employees, and then also to the companies that you're working with.
Absolutely. And, I'm going to throw out something, kind of a misconception when people say, and I actually put a LinkedIn post out there about people still don't know what I have. My wife and kids have no idea what I do, and it's fine. I've given up trying to explain it. But there was a chart out there that was put out recently, and I reposted on LinkedIn, and it showed the difference between a consultant and a fractional leader. And they're very, very different. In a nutshell, you can think of it this way, where a fractional leader is a part of the team for part of the time, but they are on the team. So when I'm working with a client, I actually have their email. I have an email address. My customers, the people I'm talking to, have no idea that I don't work there full time because I function as though I'm part of the team. That never is the case. Well, rarely, I guess, is the case with a consultant. A consultant usually comes in with a set project in mind for a set duration, and they come in and they are not functioning as an employee. They're functioning as an outsider, providing expert advice. And there is a need for both models, but there is a very real difference in how they're delivered.
I think that's a fantastic kind of comment and really interesting because I'm just reflecting on it, and a consultant, I imagine, like you said, a time and place, but it feels a little bit more removed compared to the model that, PartnerReady uses.
Absolutely. And it is removed because you're coming in. I have been a consultant in the past, and I've always felt like an outsider. Mm-hmm. I didn't feel like a part of the team. I didn't feel like I had a seat at the table. They were listening to me sometimes, and sometimes not, right? And that gets really frustrating. And consultants can be, can be very frustrated by that. They're putting their best foot forward. They're making expert recommendations, yet the team is not necessarily implementing, and that's fine. They don't really have the influence to implement. As a fractional leader, you are strategic, providing the guidance, but you're also tactical, where you can help them implement because you're a part of the team. You're not just making the recommendations, you're helping execute as well.
Mhm. Yeah, well, Greg, I think that's a really interesting point, and I appreciate your insights on that. So as we start to wrap up this conversation, Greg, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, either, about the SaaS industry, fractional leadership, Partner Ready as a whole, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, kind of the buzzword right now, if I didn't say talk about ecosystems, I think I'd be remiss, because that is definitely a buzz. And the question is, well, exactly what is it and why does it matter? To me, everybody is impacted. If you're taking a product to market and you're ignoring the fact that there is a whole all these different influencers on your end user, on your customer, you're missing something. So the whole ecosystem concept, I'd welcome the conversation. Because my wife is sick of hearing about it, I got to find somebody else to talk to. So please bring the conversations. And I am on LinkedIn, pretty easy to find, Greg Plum. What we do, I would gladly open up, set up a 30-minute meeting and just talk to you, to share, to learn a little bit about an environment, your environment, the listener's environment, or viewers, whatever we're going to call this. Find out what their challenges are from a go-to-market strategy. And then we can find out if an ecosystem mindset, meaning look at all of those influencers and how can we dovetail, how can we bolt onto some of those other entities that are influencing the customer, can actually strengthen our position with the customer.
How are you able to support, a fractional leader learning more about this ecosystem? Is there, an option that Partner Ready offers to be able to, enhance kind of the skills that a leader may be walking in with?
Absolutely. Thanks, Kelsey. It's a great lead in. Yeah, we have many options.
I did my research.
No, that's great. We don't have to necessarily be that fractional leader and then take that part of the team. If you have a team that's established, perfect. You have a CRO and you've got your sales leaders, your partnership leaders. We don't need to, we're not looking for jobs. We all want to just come in and help. So we have advisory options where it's an extremely light lift and extremely cost effective. For a monthly, we'd have a monthly engagement. I really think that usually the first step is that we do an analysis of the value chain of the customer, where we use our proprietary methodology, where we come in. That's usually a 6-week program. We sit down with the leadership and give them a different lens to look through. That's really what it's all about. And then at that point, after the 6 weeks, we've given them a blueprint. We can walk away, or we can help out as a part of the team, or we can actually be there, stay on just in an advisory function for as long as they need us.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fantastic. And, certainly, again, it's in the name, Partner Ready, looking to be a partner, in every aspect of the term. So, Greg, I think this was a great conversation. Thank you for sharing your insights. I think this, was a fantastic episode. I appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Thanks, Kelsey. Appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, great to have you.
Thanks.